Bonjour et bienvenue à Creating Canon avec vous autres, AJ Hamilton et Noël Cruz-Perret.
Well, you've just offended our French listeners.
Oh, horribly.
Yeah.
That was not even close.
No.
I'm so sorry.
You didn't even get one in there.
Croissant!
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
I am very sorry, too.
Hello and welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts AJ Hamilton and Noël Cruz-Perret.
You've actually just now made our podcast acceptable in the French provinces of Canada, in that we had some English and French.
Oh, balancing it out.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
But wait,
yeah.
hold on. I will then do the translation of to...
Oh, yes, please.
Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger.
Is that a Texas translation?
I just felt like if I was going to take a shot at the French, I should take a shot at Americans as well. It just seemed fair.
We can take it. We're at a strong period in society right now.
Yeah, exactly. There's no animosity between anybody, ever.
Not at all. Oh, my God. And Nicholas C. Pappas.
Yay! Why did neither of us sound excited about my own self? I didn't sound
Hey, Nicholas C. Pappas. Him again? Really? Okay, cool. I guess. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Hey. AJ, can we just start this episode?
Yes, let's do it.
With...
I think we should.
Well,
yes.
No. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me just start by saying...
Yes.
You're welcome.
And what are you, what should I be thanking you for?
Well, I have introduced you to 1989's Dial Code Santa Claus, a.k.a. Deadly Games, a.k.a. 3615 Code Père Noël. Père Noël. I don't know what this word, like why I'm doing this.
It's Papa or Father.
Yeah, Father Christmas.
Yes, indeed.
Which is, we talked about this a little bit last week. It's a movie made in 1989 that didn't actually make it to the United States until 2018. So it took a long time to get here. I was really fortunate to see this at the New Beverly last year in a double feature with Home Alone, which is one of the most perfect double features ever created.
And we'll tell you why.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. And then, luckily, weirdly, timing-wise, Vinegar Syndrome just released it in 4K Blu-ray.
Nice.
And the transfer is fucking gorgeous.
I'm jealous, because I had to watch it in not that.
Yeah, we'll get you a 4K look at it one day. But...
I will say...
Are you gonna... You're welcome me? Or thank me? What are we doing?
You are welcome.
Thank you. Wait, God damn it!
Tricked you. Thank you. No, I wanted to say that I have to thank you twice, because last year I think I already did, but you're 2 for 2 with excellent Christmas episodes.
Thank you.
Honestly.
I did my best. Black Christmas last year. Yeah.
Black Christmas. Oh my God. This was terrifically fun.
Did you?
Honestly,
Yes.
I was not sure of what to expect from this.
I told you not to look anything up.
I was not. I didn't.
And I'm so happy you didn't.
No, I didn't IMDb anything. I didn't want to know who anybody was. And not that I know anybody from French cinema in 1989, but I really didn't want any... You know how if somebody has an alternate name or something like that, you're like, oh no, that ruined the twist ending or something like that. Not that anything like this would have happened, but there are so many amazing little twists and turns. And I also am... I don't know if you're like this with trailers. I didn't look up any of the trailers.
Yeah.
But if you see a trailer, and this is just the way my mind works, if I see a thing... I create a checklist in my mind for trailers. Like, if I haven't seen that, I know that is coming up. Like in the first Avengers trailer, when you see the Hulk jump up and catch the falling Iron Man,
yeah, you know
at
that
the very end of the movie,
you're waiting for it to happen the whole movie.
Yeah, and also you know that he's not going to get lost in that space hole.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't been caught by the Hulk. So you almost, if your mind works in a certain way, you sort of assemble the most logical order that those clips can come in, and it kind of ruins the movie for you. So I still have not actually seen the trailer for this movie, and I am so happy that I have.
I'm glad you have. I had a friend.
So pure.
I have a friend who, when I go see a movie with him, if all of a sudden I start hearing, like during the trailers, oftentimes what'll happen is about 15 to 30 seconds in, I'll start hearing da 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 da, and he's covered his ears and he's closed his eyes, and that's when I know he has decided that he wants to see that movie. Like he's already made the conscious choice of like, oh, that looks like something I'd see, and now I don't want to know anything else.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
He's a fellow writer, and like part of the problem that he has is he can watch a 2.5 minute trailer, come out and go, well, here's the story, and he's right, I would say 90% of the time.
I'll say that certain movies do an amazing job obfuscating their story, but there's a lot of times where they just give the trailer house a bunch of their best stuff. Yeah.
Say,
and
go
they're
for
just
it.
like, we don't care about the twist. It's fine.
So,
but let's jump into this movie.
Yeah, so I actually had 2 questions for you. The first question is, was there a moment when you were like, holy shit, this is Home Alone?
Oh, quite early on, yes.
Okay, and then I guess the other moment I'm curious about, was there a moment where you were like, oh my god, this isn't just a kid's movie? Fuck!
Yes, and you know what scene that is.
Yep, I have a guess.
You know exactly when the dog gets served.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we have a hint when the Santa Claus character slaps a child across the face.
I thought that was hilarious, and I felt bad about
laughing
at it.
But yeah, there's a moment in this movie where you're watching and you're like, oh, this is a quaint little kid's movie. And then you're like, what the fuck happened?
I honestly, like, that switched channels in me. I was like, oh, I didn't think that this movie had the balls to do that.
Yeah.
And that is the inciting incident for all the rest of this stuff, and it goes on for some time.
I remember in the movie theater that happened, and the entire audience like screamed.
Yep.
As all of us had this like collective moment of, oh,
that's what we're here for.
That's right. That's exactly right. We were all just like, I had no clue that was coming.
Well, and I feel bad about talking about it in such broad terms right now.
We should just hop in.
We should, but it really is the thing that makes the rest of the movie work, because you know that there are any stakes, anything will go.
Oh yeah.
That's the most amazing part of that.
I think that's exactly right. So the basic plot line of this movie. Ooh, I didn't do the thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so the basic
do the thing.
All I have written down is like, it's Home Alone meets Rambo, and it's darker than you think. It's Dial Code Santa Claus.
Okay, so you know how I always like to combine things?
Yeah, the portmanteauing of humans.
Absolutely. Well, this time it's more different movies, and I actually have like 6 different movies that this movie feels like.
Die Hard's in here.
Like Die Hard, yes. Die Hard, Rambo, Batman, Home Alone, obviously. Richie Rich Toys with Robin Williams and Masterminds. So like a lot of, I don't know if you remember Patrick Stewart's Masterminds.
I never saw it.
From like 94.
I know of it. I don't think I ever. I never saw it.
97. Sorry, but super interesting. This movie. It's not perfect.
No.
But I was so impressed by the grounding of it.
Yeah.
In such an oddball premise.
Yeah, well, it's basically, and to give that premise really directly, it is Home Alone, except for instead of 2 wet bandits coming in, it's a homicidal Santa Claus who is there to exact revenge, basically, upon a child for the actions of that child's mother. And
kind of.
The second the child sees Santa Claus, Santa Claus actually murders the dog in front of the kid's face and then blood is just dripping off this like pie knife. And the only reason I bring that up, and this is attached to everything else, is like Home Alone is fun, but never once do you think, oh, Kevin McAllister is going to be harmed.
There's one moment where Marv grabs onto Kevin's leg, and that's when Kevin has to drop the arachnid, the tarantula on his face. And that was I remember as a child, that was the only time that I was nervous for Kevin, because he had never been touched by them before that.
Yeah.
And that was the only time he was. Or no, they also put him up against the wall, remember?
Right at the end. But at that point, we knew, like, you know what a movie is. You know that, like, our child actors...
Not as a child, though. Because I remember seeing that. I mean, I was 6 when that came out. And I'm sure I saw it that year.
Maybe. Well, I think so. Maybe that's part of it too. Is I'm a little older. Yeah. I'm just not much, but like I think I was probably 9 when that came out.
Okay.
Maybe 7, somewhere around there.
The difference is negligible.
So I think at that point, and I never really had restrictions on movies, so I saw a lot of R-rated movies too as a child.
There you go.
And I was really able to distinguish the fact of like children's movies and adult movies. So, like, at that point, it was like, oh, okay, this is a kid's movie. I know nothing bad's going to happen to the kid.
Sure.
His parents, something's bad's going to happen to, but not the kid himself. Like, you know.
Exactly.
And in this, the kid is in danger. Legitimate danger. You don't know if he's going to survive.
You don't know if anybody is going to survive in this.
Yes.
The body count is surprisingly high in this.
For a children's movie.
For a children's movie. By the way, I know that this is superfluous. I don't think anybody has their children in the room when they're listening to this podcast. But if you do, we're going to talk about The Secret of Santa Claus. I mean, whatever. But I just wanted to... So here's some Jeopardy music to let you get the kids out. Okay, you done? Cool. Nick, what age were you when you found out The Secret of Santa Claus?
Well, so this is actually a real fun story.
Okay.
I must have been 7 because I found out from The Simpsons. The very first episode. And it's partially hysterical to me because my mom, to this day... It is now 31 years after I have found out. When The Simpsons comes on television, she goes, turn that shit off. That's what told you don't have a Santa. Get rid of it. Like, to this day, my mom holds a grudge against the fucking Simpsons for
That's
that.
amazing. Is that why you have a vendetta against Matt Groening?
Yeah, that's exactly why... no, actually, I don't have a vendetta. I'm fine. My mom has a vendetta against Matt Groening. There is a list of celebrities and hockey players who have slighted me in my youth for various reasons. That, you know that scene in Billy Madison where Steve Buscemi has the list of names?
Yes, yeah.
My mom, I'm pretty sure, has a list of names like that. There was another incident when I was 5 when a certain hockey player promised to give me a hockey stick before a game. After the game, he decided to give it to a pretty blonde girl with big boobs. And to this day, when that hockey player's name comes up, my mom goes, I hate him. I don't like him whatsoever.
Yeah, but can you blame him?
Well, I mean, my 5-year-old self was destroyed. My adult self is like, I don't know why I was destroyed. But yeah, it's actually humorous to me.
Yeah.
But parents will do that. They'll keep vendettas for you.
That's actually sweet. That's pretty sweet.
Weirdly.
Watch out, Matt.
Yeah, watch out.
Watch out, the team of The Simpsons.
Watch
from
out, Bernie.
1989.
Matt and Bernie. Those are the 2 top names on the list. So what about you? When did you find out?
I found out at about 9, and it was the sort of classic thing of some jerk kid at school was like, had watched the first episode of The Simpsons,
right,
and they were like, hey, idiot, you know that Santa Claus isn't real. And I came home and I cried to my parents, and I was like,
wait,
you
what?
have
Santa
to
Claus
tell
isn't
me.
real?
You have to tell me Is he real or not? And then,
Oh.
you know, the parents pull that thing of like, oh, Santa Claus is inside of us all, and, you know, it only matters what you feel, and, you know, it's the Christmas spirit bullshit. Like, no, I'm kidding.
What's
no,
so
it's very
funny,
sweet.
My mom had the opposite take a little
Really?
bit, which was, well, not exactly the opposite take, but I asked, is Santa Claus real? And she said, well, let me ask you this. Does he bring you presents? And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, if you want him to keep bringing you presents, you better believe in him, because if you don't, he will stop. So, I mean, to be honest, to this day, my mom will be like, do you believe in Santa? And I'm like, yes, Mom, I believe in Santa. Because otherwise,
Because of course,
I don't get Christmas presents. Like,
yeah,
to this day.
I mean, that's a deal.
Yeah.
That's a deal breaker, obviously.
I have to, like, do that. So, that's a thing.
And the cool thing was, like, my parents didn't just, like, oh, these are from Santa. My dad would, like, write in, like, Santa script. Wow. And he would wrap the presents differently than the presents from my parents.
Jesus.
Which, yeah.
That sounds like your dad.
Absolutely. He went the extra mile, you know? You know, I don't think he ever dressed up as Santa Claus. His parents used to dress up. Really? His father dressed up as Santa Claus and would, like, and because they lived in Denver, they would forgive him for having, like, a face mask on. You know, he was like, oh, cold. It's so cold. So, yeah, they would. And one year, his dad had to work late on Christmas Eve, so my grandmother dressed up as it, and she was so nervous about it. She could only say ho ho ho, and she gave the presents. And, you know, it had patted herself up. It was adorable. I know.
That is too much for me to even handle right now. Oh, my God.
So let's get into this incredibly embittered version of Christmas.
Oh, God.
Because I just want to talk about the opening shot, which, well, first of all, there's a quote.
Oh, yeah, you wrote down the quote? Good.
I did.
Because this is the Frenchiest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
It is. Every child believes in magic and stops doing so when he grows up, except for those too disappointed in reality to trust its rewards. Now, that's... damn. And that is really, like, encapsulated by the very first live shot where there's a snow globe in snow, and it's of Paris with the Eiffel Tower, and it's run over by a garbage truck.
Yes. And then it's like a snowball fight, and this incredibly childlike man wants to join the snowball fight. And, I mean, he's a little creepy. Like, I don't know how to, like, you know from the second you see him, like, you're like, he's a little off. I don't think I want my kids around him, but the kids are like, who's this freak? And they all, like, run away.
Yeah.
And he just looks so
sad. As they should.
Yeah,
I know.
Those are very good. Very good kids.
Yeah. Good training. Yeah, we don't know where he comes from.
Yeah.
Right?
Or what his purpose in this. Like,
what his purpose is. But again, he kind of feels innocent at that point.
I agree.
You know?
Well,
I felt bad for him, actually. I was like, I know that he shouldn't be hanging out with those children, but he did almost seem like he just wanted to throw snowballs with them.
He almost felt like, in a weird way... Did you ever see the movie Jack with Robin Williams?
Yeah.
He felt like Jack, except he wasn't a child. And in Jack, Robin Williams was essentially playing a child who looked like a 40-year-old man. This was just a 40-year-old man who was so childlike. And it almost felt like if we had seen 3 minutes prior to that, this dude would have been walking out of some sort of asylum or clinic or place that he was under watch, and that they were like, well, you've healed, you can go now.
Or they just gave up on him, sadly,
or
something to that effect. Yeah,
like that was the 3 minutes before this scene, the snowball fight.
But we don't get that, so it is left to the imagination. For the entire movie. Yeah,
we immediately cut from that to our lead boy Thomas asleep in an airplane with sound effects, and I was like, how does that kid sleep in that plane with that
so
noise?
Disorienting.
Yes, it is. It is.
And also, how does anyone else in the entire mansion put up with that? Or, let me say, castle.
Well,
the kid lives in in a castle.
I actually have a note is, what the fuck is this house? But the thing that is so fascinating is he's got this, like, plain noise effect that's like, boom, 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 yeah, like screaming and yelling. Yeah. And then, and it cuts to what is essentially this gigantic toy room that we then discover later in the movie. And I just want to note this. We discover later in the movie, no one in the house knows that toy room exists except for him. Which was passed down by his father, who was passed down by his father.
Right.
Right? It seems the whole paternal line is dead in this movie, and all that exists is his mom and his grandfather. So they don't know the secrets of the house. Yeah. Right? But the one thing I want to point out is later in the movie, when he finally introduces Grandpa to this room, Grandpa makes the smallest noise in that room, and creepy snowball guy, who what we're going to call him for now, can hear it. And I was like, wait a second. Everybody knows this room exists then because of all the noise.
There must, yeah.
Right?
I mean, unless, well, we find out in this scene, in this opening scene, in this very complicated opening scene, that it is being played, the sounds, the gunfire and all of that is being played over loudspeakers all over the house.
Oh, I guess
so. I think it's
true.
not
right.
just
You're
in
right.
that room.
Now that you know that, that's right. That's right.
I don't know. It's almost it's obnoxious. I will say at the beginning of this scene, it's kind of obnoxious. It's kind of like a little overwhelming. The kid gets so much more lovable throughout the entire movie,
totally.
But he is not introduced as not a spoiled brat.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
He immediately wakes up, and then it cuts into this knockoff Eye of the Tiger.
Truly,
yeah. And then he dresses like Rambo, runs around the house, does a workout,
so
chases his dog, shoots his dog. And
with Nerf guns. Yeah.
And then, as his dog comes running towards him, there's a trap door in the hallway, ? That the dog falls into. And that's when I'm really going like, what the fuck is this house?
Well, Mom later on says, hey, stop digging holes in the floor. It looks like Swiss cheese. I was like,
yes.
How? Stop letting your child do this.
Stop doing that.
Show some parenting. Don't.
Oh, right. In this, the kid jumps on his grandpa's bed while grandpa is sleeping. Grandpa does not move. Right. And then later, Mom is like...
2 minutes later,
Mom's
told,
like, wake up.
Go wake.
And the way he wakes up Grandpa is he gets on a loudspeaker and he's like, hey, wake up, Grandpa! Wake up! And you're just like, what the fuck is this movie?
Also, it appears that the child is not just super into war games, but he is a technical genius?
Yes.
Of some sort?
He's a computer genius.
Which we find out through some very complicated jargon, which was absolutely hilarious.
Was this after breakfast or during breakfast?
I don't remember when it might have been after breakfast, but he says, now let's optimize this with some editing software. And it honestly sounded like
so
I'm going to computer my hard drive with more RAM and download an Ethernet.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it just sounded like technobabble, especially in 1988, 1989 times.
I wonder how much of that
what?
is the translation, though. I gotta be fair.
Damn it, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Because we should note that this movie is in French and it's subtitled.
I can't believe we've got this far
without
in.
noting that. Yeah,
that is true.
That is. But that whole scene with Grandpa and breakfast, and he's like, the kid is handcuffed to his grandfather. His mom throws him a croissant. The grandfather and the kid take their medication by drinking it.
And also the grandfather is established as being practically blind.
Yep.
Yes.
And then there's the weird handshake that lasts like 19 minutes between the kid and his mom. And all I wrote down at this point was like, and that kid's fucking mullet. And all I wrote down at this point is the French are fucking wild. Like, the French, as portrayed in this movie, are wild.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And during that time, we get just name introduced to his best friend, or a friend of Thomas. Pilou. By the way, did we mention that the main characters, the boy with the mullet's name is Thomas?
Thomas.
Or Thomas?
Tommy.
Yeah.
Tom.
And Pilou, his best friend, is the asshole who told him that Santa does not exist.
Yes. He is my Simpsons, and you're a random guy.
And we're also introduced to this texting concept that this is
like
where
a weird
one of
I
the
am thing.
It's called Minitel.
Yeah.
And it's actually the source of the 3615 title of this movie. One of the titles of this movie. So what you do is you essentially dial up on a texting or chat room style thing. And if you dial 3615, you can get to Santa Claus. And you can tell him what you want. And it's supposedly like a program it was very broad.
Well, this is what was wild to me.
I don't think anybody understood what the internet was at the time.
No.
So everybody was like, whatever, it's on a screen. I accept it.
Well, and this is what was wild to me is Thomas and Pilou are trying to talk to Santa. They have dialed Santa and talking to him over the internet. And it seems, if I'm understanding correctly, the person who is responding to him is our creepy snowball bro.
That's right.
Who's in the middle of the mall. And then I was like, wait, when people dial Santa, are they just talking to random people in the mall? People?
And it's like, I'll humor a child.
Is that what
Why
it
not?
is? And then what happens when a child is at a mall and sees that, and are they like, wait a second. Hold on.
I thought it was, did you ever call Santa's hotline as a child? Because they had that for a long time. I bet you they now have a chat room or an instant messenger or something like that you can do. But yeah, they used to have a thing where you would call in and it was like, ho, 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 I hope you've been a very good girl or boy this year. Leave your message with what you want and I'll try to get you those gifts. Keep being good to your parents. Different stuff like that.
And remember, kids, I know who's been naughty and nice.
But I feel like that's sort of an analog for this.
Yeah.
But it's in such an odd way that it doesn't actually make sense why it would go to Snowball Bro.
Yeah, because it seems like what's happened, to be clear, I don't know if we were clear about this, Snowball Bro is just walking around the mall, and all of a sudden the computer screen was a little kid asking for Santa, and he was like, oh, I'll answer that. Yeah. And then the little kid gives details of who his mom is, where his mom works, to then which we cut to mom at work. Mom seems to basically own the French version of Macy's.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. She's like Miracle on 34th Street.
And there's this wild moment, too, where I started to write a note about this, because she walks in and she's like, hey, everybody, I know tonight's Christmas, so what I want to do is hire jugglers, fire eaters, clowns, Santa Clauses, and just, like, pack the stores, and it's, like, noon. And in my head, I'm like, that's not the way it works. And I was so kind of
impractical.
Yeah. And I'm really happy that someone in the room goes, excuse me, that's impractical. This will take months to plan. Why are you just springing it on us? Because
her son questioned Santa Claus. She was like, because some kids question their belief in Santa Claus. Yeah. And I was like, I wanted that her boyfriend, because her boyfriend is the one who picked her up.
Yeah.
At home and drove her to work, and he works with her. And I wanted him to say, listen, babe, I love you, but you cannot be bringing your home shit into work. Like, that's...
You wanted him to be Ellis from Die Hard? Listen, babe. Listen, Hans, babe. Hold on. I'm going to do some Coke and drink some Coke.
Actually, yes, that should have been exactly what happened.
Okay.
No, he ends up being a good guy in the end,
so
whatever. But I was just like, no, you can't do that. And yet, she does. And there is so much hiring, and it just blind. And
this is where I was like, this is the hiring process. Was like, literally, this creepy fucking dude.
Yeah.
He walks in, and they're like, oh, you can be Santa. And I was like, they're being hired to be around children. This is not a great hiring process.
You do background checks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our creepy Snowball Bro gets a Santa costume.
As Santa.
And so this is my belief, is that his aim with going to, it's called Printemps, that's the Macy's.
Yeah.
His aim of going there was he actually is trying to find Thomas.
Maybe.
And so he is trying to work himself, like, yes, I think that being Santa just, I mean, forgive the phrasing, but gets his jollies off. Jolly Saint Nick, get it? And also a perversion. Thank you.
Oh, God, you kill me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. But I think he gets something out of that, but he also, his final goal of the night is to actually make it somehow to Thomas.
Didn't Thomas, through the computer, basically say, let's play to Santa? Something to that effect? Like, I want to play, or I want to hang out? Like,
yeah, you should come here.
You should come here and we should play. Yeah, so that really sets up a lot. We cut back to Thomas and the grandfather, and Thomas is just like, I mean, Thomas fixes a car in this movie and then drives it. Thomas welds a door open. Mm-hmm. Thomas, like, he is insane. But I just wanted to note that, like, he fixes a car and then just drives around.
And his grandfather says, no slaloming.
Yeah, no slaloming between trees this time.
Maybe don't let your child drive.
Yeah, he's, because I think
at
Thomas
9 years
is 9,
old.
Yeah. We cut back to Crazy Snowball Bro, who at this point we will now call Santa from this point forward.
Indeed.
He's got this moment, and this is the moment where both times I went from, oh, this is a sweet Christmas movie, I'm curious where it's going, right? Like, to a certain extent. Well, the first time especially. The second time, I forgot where the movie starts to switch. Because he's got this, like, Santa's got this, like, beautiful face. He's, like, handing things to kids, and he is just, kids seem to love him. He's very
throwing
good at his
candy.
job. And this little boy comes up named Marion, and Marion looks him in the eye and says, I don't like your face, pulls his beard off and says, you're not the real Santa.
Santa.
And then Santa slaps the child across the face hard. And that was the moment for me where I was like, oh, whoa, that was unexpected.
They're literally not pulling punches.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that to me is the moment where the movie, like, he's already a little unsettling in that scene, like his smile.
Yes. Yeah. And his gaze. Yeah.
And then that moment, to which, of course, Thomas's mom sees and fires him immediately.
Did you also notice that he was shot a lot in Dutch angles?
Yes.
I mean, which is actually a classic. If nobody knows Dutch angles, there's a theory that when a camera shot is tilted slightly, it gives uneasiness.
Yeah, it's how all the villains were shot in the original Batman TV series.
That's right, the 60s series. Yep. And also how half of the movie was shot in Thor. So don't always put it in your movie.
Yeah, it's like a lens flare. They're fine if you use
in moderation.
If you use it sparingly.
But yeah, he's very creepy. Now, like, he sets out not only to get revenge on the mother who just fired him, but also to still play with Thomas.
Yeah, so he goes to the hiring office to basically turn in a suit, and as he's in the hiring office, he overhears someone say, listen, this shipment of toys is for the boss's son. You need to get this to the boss's son now. He's very detailed with everything. So our Santa is like, oh, fuck. And he goes, and there's a great shot of them loading the van.
Yeah, and him looking out.
Yeah, in the background.
Around the corner,
Oh, God, that shot is so great. There's a lot of really well-filmed stuff in this movie. The cinematographer's
great. There's a great part at the very end of that scene where he pulls back into the dark around the corner, and his features just go completely black.
So cool.
The one thing that I will say I could not take my eyes off was his bushy eyebrows.
Yeah, that's what are you gonna do?
Oh, it's it's good.
Yeah, it's
good
fine.
for him.
It's fine. So at this point, the van pulls up to the house,
the mansion.
The guy driving the van gets out of the van, opens the door, and then Santa yanks him in there and kills him. And at this point, this is the first time. I remember very specifically the first time I watched this movie. This was the first time I was like, wait, is this a kid's movie?
Yeah. Is he not just going to knock him out?
Wait
Holy
a
crap.
second. That guy is dead.
I also love, after that, Santa walks up to the front door of the house. And I think
it's not the house, it's It's the I was gonna say it's the
keeper's house, right?
The housekeepers. It's like the servants' quarters, basically.
Sure. Yes. And the housekeepers come out and they say, "Oh, that's fun! You dressed up as Santa. That's a great idea." And he does the creepiest thing. It was such a wonderful thing. By the way, we have not heard him say a word.
Yep.
I realized at this point. And he puts his fingers to his lips and he shushes them, and then it cuts to something innocuous. I think it was them playing D&D, but it was so ominous.
Grandpa and Thomas play D&D in this movie, to point that out, which is amazing. And then there's a phone call where Thomas's mom calls and is like, "Why aren't you in bed?" And Thomas is like, "Because I'm up to see Santa." And she says, "Well, if you see Santa, he becomes an ogre."
Yeah, didn't you know that? Which
I thought was one of those things where you're like, what the fuck is this movie setting up? Also, the kid has this gigantic, like, you know the big thing in Predator that the Predator wears where he, like, taps in codes and stuff?
Yeah, kind of like a Pip-Boy from Fallout, or different things just on your wrist.
He's got one of those that's hooked up to the security cameras in the home, where he can see the cameras, and at this point he's like, I'm just going to hang out under a table and wait for Santa. Which, this was another shot that I loved, is Santa in the rocking chair. Oh, before this, by the way, we should note that our Santa
is brown-haired.
Yeah.
And
brown-haired and bearded, and he finds a can of
flocking powder. Yeah,
exactly. That goes on a Christmas tree. Sprays his whole face, all of his beard and his eyebrows and his mustache and his hair.
Absolutely loved that scene.
I did too,
because they doesn't cut away. He does almost the whole thing,
and he's glee as he's doing this, almost as if there's a thing for him where he's like, "Oh my god, I get to play Santa. This is great." I'm going to surprise this kid and everyone's going to be happy. And then there's a shot of him in a rocking chair, just rocking. And it cuts to Thomas. I love this sequence of shots where a rope falls down the chimney and Thomas gets really excited. Santa comes in. Everybody's happy. And Thomas is so excited that he's going to see Santa. And then the dog starts attacking Santa.
And Santa is kicking him away.
Yeah, which you're first like, wait, this is weird. But I guess if you're getting attacked by a dog...
Yeah, I get it, yeah.
Then Santa... And it's important to note that Thomas doesn't see this, just we as the audience. We see Santa grab a metal,
serving
knife.
Yeah.
That's sharp and...
Super silvery,
and gets into a fight with the dog, rolls the dog over. And from Thomas's point of view, all Thomas sees is Santa take the knife and stab the dog in the fucking throat, to a point where, like, the dog is clearly dead. There's no way this dog is not dead. And then the camera, it moves in such a way where Santa stands up, holds the thing down, and there's just blood dripping off the knife.
And all the while, Thomas is covering his mouth, trying not to scream. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, and that little kid, I will say, for however old he is, he was the emotional through line that this movie needed. I rarely say this, but even at times, Kevin McAllister is a little corny, a little unbelievable. This kid, I actually didn't like him at the very beginning. But honestly, this
that's
scene
his character, I think.
Yeah. And
he actually played his character so well.
He did. And then he has this turn, and you are absolutely 100% on his side because you are horrified for him.
Well, I think it does the thing where what the filmmaker does, really. We should note that this filmmaker is named Rene Manzor, who... I am probably butchering that. He wrote it and he directed it. He directed a bunch of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. He directed the Highlander TV series, and he also wrote Highlander: The Final Dimension. And the little kid is played by an actor named Alain Lelaine, which again I probably butchered, who no longer works as an actor but works as a visual effects supervisor.
Holy crap!
He worked on Avatar: Edge of Tomorrow, San Andreas, as well as like a ton of other things. But what the filmmaker does really well is I feel like we are in Thomas's mindset in that we think Santa's relatively safe. Like, it's a little kid's movie.
Yeah.
There's no way Santa's going to, even though Santa's sinister a little bit, like, no way Santa's going to do anything so bad. And then Santa literally murders a fucking dog.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the moment where we as the audience are like, oh shit, nobody's safe. This is not what I thought it was. Which is happening for the character of Thomas at the same time. And I think the movie does a really good job in, like, taking us on that journey.
This guy should have been a classic movie horror villain. Like, this should be held up with some of the greats.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Like, this feels... And not to relate it to the Joker movie, Joker, but this guy almost feels, in a way, Joker-like.
I can see that.
You know, the Joker origin, we don't know who this man is, and it doesn't matter, because all it matters is the chaos that he is causing right now. And that's the greatest part of, like, the indiscriminate killing. We don't know what his motivations are, and that's horrifying. It
is. Well, and what's also really fascinating about the way the character's played by a man named Patrick Lollersheim? I don't know. I probably butchered that as well. I apologize to Patrick. His performance is so good that at times, as horrifying as he is, he almost feels sympathetic.
In certain ways. In certain scenes, yeah.
There are moments where I'm like, oh.
Like, at one point, he's getting shot with Nerf darts, and he kind of looks pained. Like, what did I do? Or almost, like, offended.
Just remember that for something that happens later.
Yeah,
I think there's an amazing moment that happens later.
Yes.
But anyways, at this point, the kid gets Grandpa, knowing that this is not the way Santa is supposed to be.
No.
And there's a great moment where they're getting into the car, they're trying to drive away, but the car does not start. And I love the reveal. I also thought this was great, even though it's not too big of a surprise of a reveal, where Santa is all of a sudden in front of the car. I thought that was such a cool shot.
It was, yes. It was very Fargo-ish, you know, a little bit. It was creepy. It was good.
Yeah. At this point, the kid then, first of all, we should note that Santa starts destroying the car. One of the first things he does is he headbutts the windshield until it shatters.
So creepy.
Which was like, fuck.
Yeah, and then he just starts playing games with them. You know, because he absolutely, like, he knows that he can shatter every piece of glass in there and get to them. And they roll up their windows and they lock the doors. But he's got, like, a mallet or something. He's smashing it with
a sledgehammer.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're sitting ducks.
Yeah. Eventually they do get out of the car.
Yeah.
And they disappear into the secret toy room.
Refrigerator.
Which is, I was going to say, it's connected, like, on one side, you go through Thomas's bedroom.
The Narnia wardrobe.
Into, like, a Narnia wardrobe to the back, into this gigantic toy room. You go through the toy room, which is huge, and on the other side, there's an exit that is in a hidden refrigerator in the garage. That
reminded me so much. Have you ever heard of Good Times at Davy Wayne's in Los Angeles?
No.
That's how you get into the bar.
So the refrigerator?
Yes, in the entrance of the bar, it looks like you're walking into a garage, and there's just an oversized fridge door in there, and you open it up, and you sort of have to duck down, and you enter into a backyard sort of outdoor. It's a really cool bar. I want to go back there. But yes, no, it just reminded me so much of that, and I miss it.
No, I just want to go out into the world.
I do.
In this room, in the toy room, Grandpa and the kid are trying to figure out what to do. Grandpa's like, let's just wait for your mother. I thought the kid was really smart in saying, like, if we wait for Mom, he's just going to kill Mom.
She's screwed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, he'll hurt her.
We have to get to a phone and warn.
Yes.
And I actually thought this was a really cool thing. This conversation was like, Grandpa was like, why is he inside? What happened to the alarms? And the kid was like, well, I disabled the alarms because Santa needs to get in the house.
Naturally.
Which I thought was a really fascinating thing about, like, the nature and lies of Santa actually created damage for this child.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And it's also interesting to note throughout the entire movie that the kid actually thinks that's Santa Claus.
Right.
Nobody corrects him and says, no,
that's just a psycho.
That's a psychopath.
Right.
He thinks it's
He's
Santa.
He's fighting a war against Santa. Yes.
Yeah.
But I also want to talk about the construction of this movie as well, because there is never a horror movie choice made. Do you know what I mean? There's never...
No, please dive into that a little bit more.
What I'm saying is there's never, like, we should split up for no reason. There's
yes.
never there's never a...
Everything makes logical sense from
absolutely.
point A to point B.
Like, it's always like, well, we need to get to the phone. And then when the phone becomes not an option, well, we need to make it to mom's phone in the attic or something like that.
Yeah.
Or we'd have to get outside of the building, and they're very singularly focused. It's not pell-mell, like, going around and just they are logically thinking it out.
Yes.
As a lot of times, especially when a movie has too many bodies for cannon fodder, essentially, like they're just there to get killed off.
Yes.
Those people have to have inane
idiotic reasons,
conflicting reasons. Yes, exactly. And
I'll be right back. Let's go have sex for no reason.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, this is a very satisfying. That's one of the reasons why I really like this in the end, is because it does maintain its sense of logic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the kid is really logical and really smart because because Grandpa at a point is like, I'll go get mom's phone, and the kid is like, no, you're a goddamn diabetic and you're blind.
You can't see. Yeah.
I can see where he's at on my wrist.
Yeah,
I can
don't worry.
figure that out.
Yeah.
I will leave you with a walkie-talkie so we can be in contact. Like, all of those things make complete sense. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
The one part that starts not to make a little sense is the kid then dresses as Rambo again.
Oh, I was so disappointed. I wanted to talk about
down
that.
to, like, plastic knives and plastic grenades where you're a little bit like...
Kid, you know that this isn't going to help. I will say,
although there is a childlike logic to it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He doesn't know that that they won't have an effect on them. And the cool thing is, every single thing ties back in. Every single weapon that he straps to himself, he somehow uses. I will say though, the order is wrong. Remember at the very beginning of the movie where they have the full suit up? Mm-hmm. I really think that they should have had the short suit up at the beginning of the movie, and then the longer, more protracted suit up in the middle of the movie, because that's actually, when he suits up, it's about 41 minutes in for an hour and a half movie, and I was like, oh, this would have been a perfect middle point where it's just like, you're seeing all of the things reestablished that you kind of saw really quickly earlier in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, that's a small quibble. But I just think that if you, for the aid of the audience, because at the very end of this, they clearly have no faith in their audience with the flashback narration.
Oh, at the end of the movie?
Yeah. But regardless, we'll get to that. But I just felt like they should have switch those. That's all.
A couple of things that I want to note. Well, first of all, it's weird that he gets completely dressed and then he runs out of his bedroom and he has no shoes on.
Yeah.
Which I actually thought was a Die Hard reference.
Oh, it had to be.
It had to have been. Just a really quick thing I want to point out too is, as he's getting ready and as Santa is coming close, there's some near misses. Mm-hmm. Santa starts destroying the cameras, but they do a lot of close-up of eyes, which reminded me of, like, spaghetti westerns. And then, like, Lucio Fulci does that a lot as well in his films, which seems like a very Italian thing of, like, just getting the eyes as two people, like, as two combatants are ready to start fighting.
Yes. There was also a beautiful, during this period of the cat and mouse game, sort of, there was this amazing zoom transition. Like, the Santa is standing in the middle of the room after he smashes one of the video cameras, and it's zooming into the back of his head. So it has, like, him in a medium shot all the way into his head, and then on that red, it starts panning around, and then zooming out again, and then it's on a, what is it? It's
like a figurine.
It's a figurine in another room.
in another room. But like the other thing about that figurine is it's like it's got a Santa hood.
Yes.
But it's like a skeleton face. It's
right.
It's like a scary Santa.
It's very spooky. Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
It's brilliant. It was just such a cool transition. I loved it.
Quick note: Grandpa in this movie looks like Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Absolutely, and he's about as useful.
Yeah, he's about as useful. But there's this great and weird. There were so many "what the fuck is this house" moments where the little kid goes to
the museum wing.
Yes,
the art
wing,
wing,
where the mom's office is, which is like a museum crossed with a house of mirrors.
Yeah,
like it's an actual labyrinth.
Mm-hmm. And when they zoom out from him and go up, like they have an over the top shot of this labyrinth, and it's got these eyes painted on the ground.
Floor, yeah,
what?
Which was really cool, but also what the fuck is happening?
Very unuseful. And at that point, he finds his way out of that maze. He goes up to her office, which is in a very empty attic, I will say. And I was like, what? How is this her office?
I don't understand that house at all.
There was a phone on an empty table, and that was it. And this is the only line we get from Santa.
No, he's got a couple.
Does he?
He's got like 3.
Oh, okay.
But this is the first one.
The first one, yeah. Okay. And he's somehow there. He somehow, I don't remember.
He got there first. He figured out.
Because he was smashing the cameras. And he picks up the phone and says, "Shall I dial it for you?" Yeah. Which is so creepy.
Yep.
Which was perfect because, dial code Santa.
Santa Claus.
Ugh.
Thomas hops out the window, starts at this point really running on like basically the ledge of the house, and he's having a panic attack.
Right. And then the cool thing was he had been faking like he was running on the side of the house
earlier in the movie,
way earlier in the movie. Like all of this stuff is sort of set up and then exacerbated later on, and it's so cool because they also set up so many of the different passageways from one room to the other, and they really give a good sense of geography.
Yeah, actually, that is true. The only time where I was very confused about geography in the house was I was like, wait, I wish I would have seen this office earlier.
Oh, agreed. Yeah.
Everything else, though, I was like, oh, I get where I'm at.
We've been
I get
here.
Where we can go. I get all of this stuff. This is when I made a note when Thomas is having this like panic attack. That what's interesting is like there is real danger and real pathos in this movie. Like I feel bad, and I think it's, I don't know, I just really enjoy that about this.
You enjoy a child suffering?
Well, I just enjoy that it's real.
No, I agree. When he slips off of the roof,
you're actually afraid for a moment.
Oh my god. By the way, that was great quick animation of a child hanging off the thing so they didn't have to endanger him, but it was great cut back and forth.
They used a lot of great miniatures too with the outside of the house.
Absolutely.
The scope of the house.
Then he's actually showing that he's freezing and like scared that he's gonna die.
Yes.
It is fascinating.
And I think that's too why I feel the danger is like in Home Alone, Kevin is always sort of like, I'm cool, don't worry.
Too cool for school.
And in this movie, this kid is absolutely terrified again and again. And to the point where Grandpa, who's a fucking idiot at this point, useless, makes this huge noise.
Well, he gets up just to wander. And I was like, where are you
the
going?
Toy room. Yeah,
you know it's probably important not to.
Yeah, and he makes a noise. Santa finds him. And Santa's actually about to murder him, and Grandpa's calling on the walkie-talkie, like, Thomas, he's here, save me, whatever. And then Thomas, last second, is able to save Grandpa, which I thought was great.
Oh, my God. I was so nervous for that scene because, again, after the dog, the gloves are off.
All bets are off.
Yes, absolutely. Like, absolutely. I had a feeling that the Grandpa was gonna die at many different points during this because I was like, well, the kid can't, but the Grandpa is up for grabs.
Absolutely. That's what you'd think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. And that's the part that's so, and then I thought this was so smart. The grandpa, you see Santa moving through the house, and you hear Grandpa being like, "No, you have to leave me. You have to leave me. I'm just an old man. I'm going to hold you back. This is it for me." And you're like, "Oh my God, that's heartbreaking."
Yeah.
Santa opens up a door, which turns out to be a sauna.
I loved this. This is the coolest.
And like in there is the walkie-talkie, and the kid basically shoves Santa in, and then locks him in and turns the sauna all the way up.
Also, did you notice that Thomas had opened up that door and rolled himself up in the carpet behind the door, and so when the door closed, he rolled himself out and was in the perfect spot to to slam the door and then jam a pipe through the door. And I was like, dude, you are a commando. You are Rambo Jr.
You are, yeah. Well, and that's the thing that's so cool about this. And I mean, like, and at this point too, I want to point out, I had a moment where I'm like, he's trying to kill Santa.
Yes.
This isn't like, I mean, this
done
is like
with him.
It's not, and again, I use the Home Alone comparison because that's exactly what a lot of people use the comparison. I want to note that this movie came out before Home Alone.
Yes. Yeah.
A year or 2 years before.
A year, yeah.
And one of the things, again, with Kevin, as much as Kevin's never in danger, I never really feel like Marv and Harry are in, like, their lives are going to die. They're going to get
cartoons.
hurt.
They're cartoons.
They're cartoons.
Yeah.
In this,
especially in the second one.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cartoonish things in the second one. Hey, but that kid is going to kill Santa.
Because he could just lock him in there, but also he turns up the heat to the max setting, which essentially, like, maybe there's safety settings on a sauna.
But if you're locked in there,
you
can't get out.
He's gonna melt.
Yeah.
No, that's Frosty the Snowman.
That is. And then through a certain chain of events, I can't remember exactly how this works out.
He just keeps shaking the door.
Well, I was going to cut back to
sure.
Grandpa and the kid. Yes. Yeah. So Grandpa and the kid get to a certain point where the kid, I don't remember what the kid does, but Grandpa gets basically into a gigantic suit of armor.
They don't show how he does, but
we just know that he's in there.
Exactly.
The kid has to go get something. I forget what he has to go get.
Yeah, I don't remember what he needs.
Long story short, I don't. That doesn't matter. What does matter is the kid comes back downstairs, and he's like, "All right, Grandpa, I got what we need to get out of here." And Santa grabs him, yanks him down the stairs,
and
slices his fucking leg open. Like,
God damn.
Like, not a little bit, but there's blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're like, again, this is one of those moments where you're like, oh, fuck.
Was that before or after he chases him through the shining maze? Do you remember that? That when they're outside and he's chasing him through the snow?
That is, I think, later.
Okay.
But I don't remember exactly.
But they go through that sort of snowy hedge maze outside a couple of times, just to again establish it.
You know what? This is actually I remember now. What happens is that's what he did. He sent a fax on his computer to Pilou and to his mom saying what happened. That's why he left Grandpa in the suit of armor. They left him in the suit of armor because it was safe. And that's when Santa, then he comes back down to Grandpa. Santa slices his leg open. Right at the same time, Pilou opens the door and he's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
To then which Santa chases Pilou to try to kill him.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was tense as hell too, because I was like, I don't want to see any child get killed in this movie.
Well, and Pilou barely gets away.
Yeah.
It's close.
Oof. Yeah, the Santa gets, like, cut off by a car. Driving down the street. And at this point, this is probably, as much as I absolutely loved this movie, I will say this overly dramatic montage is probably the worst use of time in the whole movie.
You mean when this kid goes, there's a Bonnie Tyler song who's like,
yes,
"This Christmas," like the song, oh my God, the song is incredible. Merry, Merry Christmas. And I do have to say, when I first saw this movie, the entire theater at this point, on fucking pins and needles.
Yes.
That song started playing as the kid is looking out the window. The theater lost their shit.
It felt like a music video from the 80s. It
was so weird.
No. And also...
Except, weirdly, you're laughing,
mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden there's these images of, like, he's cutting a chair and you don't know why, and then all of a sudden you realize he's making a crutch.
He made a crutch, yeah.
And then he's literally burying his dog. Which is... Your heart breaks until he makes a cross out of a plastic sword and a plastic Rambo knife
and stabs it in the
into
burial
the ground, and you're like, what is happening here?
I just have to say, like, when you're writing a script, not all the loose ends have to be tied up in a certain order. Like, bury the dog at the end of the movie or something, like, or just there isn't time for this right now.
Right.
Just saying, like,
there's a few moments like that.
It brings it to a goddamn halt. And I will also say, is this when he's setting up the other traps?
So what happens is he goes and gets, and I do want to just, again, it's so weird because, like, you're laughing at the song,
mm-hmm.
and then he goes and he picks up his dog, and there's, like, blood dripping off the dog's neck as he's carrying the dog to the burial site.
Yeah.
Which is, like, and he's weeping, and you are like, oh my god, my heart hurts. And then he stabs this plastic sword in the ground, and you can't help but laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of goes back and forth. But after that is when this is when it really becomes like Home Alone, and he starts
mm-hmm.
setting up traps.
And
everything from...
Yeah, a couple of crossbows
that shoot darts
into
Santa's neck.
Here's my problem with that. I'm not going to say that Home Alone did much better than this movie, but I will say... The draw of Home Alone is that when Kevin is setting up the traps, you don't exactly know what they're for. You are curious enough that you're like, okay, paint cans? I don't know. What's that going to be like? I get the micro machines. Now, why is he hanging that hot thing on the door handle? Like, there's things that you don't necessarily immediately know how they're going to play out.
Mm-hmm.
And yet in this... He spends probably 2 minutes setting up every aspect of the tripwire and the two crossbows and the things. You know exactly how it's going to go, and then the payoff is probably 13 seconds on screen.
My hunch is part of that is the difference between pace in French cinema and pace in American cinema. It's one of those things where I'm like, you're not wrong, but also... It feels so French.
It's sensibility. You're right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is a weird thing.
He really does, like, rather than setting up a bunch of different traps to go off in like a Rube Goldberg type of way, mm-hmm. or to cover all of his bases, he does set up one trap, then it goes off, then goes to the next trap setting up, and then have that go off. So it's not as cohesive as the hour that Kevin gives himself to set up the traps and then have them
Well, he has to eat pizza too, so that's...
No, it's mac and cheese.
Oh, wait, that's right. At that moment, it is mac and cheese, right. I just want to point out, by the way,
mm-hmm.
that Tomas pours gasoline on the ground and then lights a man on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and thinks he has burned to death as he runs back to Grandpa, and Grandpa is like, my diabetes medication, I need my insulin! Coming from inside of a suit of armor, which part of that's funny. I also would have to say that, so like, it's one of those weird things where, like, actually, when I'm describing it, it's humorous.
Yeah.
In the movie, it's actually quite effective.
It's odd, because you first think, you're like, that's very childish. But then you're like, that's kind of practical. If the grandpa doesn't fuck it up by talking or something like that, because right now he's a sitting duck, but he is,
safe.
It's hidden, hidden in plain sight. Yeah.
I will have to say, again, and I think we've talked about this before at some point in time, is like, that's not how diabetes works. Diabetes does not work. Like, insulin, if you need insulin after you eat.
Right.
If you take insulin when you have low blood sugar, it will kill you because it will drop your blood sugar lower. And what's happening to the grandfather is he has low blood sugar and he's screaming for insulin. And what he should be screaming for is a glass of orange juice, a chocolate bar,
right?
Anything high in sugar content. But
yes.
I'm going to let that go.
Sure, yeah.
Because the kid runs around trying to get the insulin.
Like, yeah, that is the MacGuffin at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did he discover the bodies of the
we
groundskeepers?
See the bodies. The
we do.
Kid doesn't see the bodies.
That was actually... Oh my God.
I want a couple of things before that actually is very important.
Yes,
Number
please.
one...
I have a couple, too.
We should note that there is a cop who comes to the house that Santa kills. Which happens off screen.
Right, yeah.
So that's one thing to note. Number two, there is, after Santa is set on fire, there is a moment where Thomas basically rigs a grenade to explode with huge balls of shrapnel.
Yeah.
That he then puts on a train and then, like, sends to Santa, which you think is going to explode, which is terrifying.
Yep.
And then Santa sends it back.
Yeah, he picks it up and examines it.
Yeah.
With again, childlike wonder.
I was just going to say, there's so much childlike glee as he sends it back to Thomas, and he's like, ha ha ha! And Thomas is freaking out.
Because he sends
knowing that thing's coming.
Yeah, and he sends it back, and you think, oh God, they're going to have it hit Thomas. And then you see it's like rack focus, and you're like, what's behind Thomas? It's the suit of armor.
Yep.
Holy shit, it's going to hit, and that was amazing. I love that they made it so that one of his traps didn't work. He wasn't always successful at this.
Yep. And the trap was about to kill his grandfather, which thank God it didn't go off. But again, that's a very nervous moment in the movie. You're just waiting.
Yeah. When he's looking for the insulin in the main house and not the caretaker's house, that was actually another one of those very tense moments where he's also... That was horrible stacking of...
insulin boxes that are, like, empty. Like, I was
everywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, how much does he take? And throw them away.
Throw it away.
But he's got this thing, and we didn't even mention it. At one point, Thomas has shot a tracking device onto Santa Claus, and he's got the tracker around his neck. Thomas does.
Yeah.
And as he's looking through all of the insulin boxes, the camera pans down from his face to his midsection, which he's not looking at the tracker at the time.
Yep.
And the green indicator of Santa getting closer and closer, and it felt a lot like Alien at that moment.
Yes, Alien.
Like, wait.
Yeah.
No, Alien. It's the first one.
No, Aliens.
In the vents.
No, it was in Aliens because there was multiple of them coming as they were looking at the thing. They were coming from all angles, and they couldn't figure out why they couldn't see them, and it was underneath. Because it wasn't...
No, it's Dallas in Alien. It's the first one. There is a second one.
There's that scene. Then there's also that scene in Aliens.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
It's just weird that we're both thinking of different scenes.
Yeah.
That is the same exact thing.
Absolutely. But yeah, but this was the greatest part, that it wasn't Santa. Santa had solved it, and he had found that he was being tracked, and he put it on a little remote control thing.
A tank.
Thomas is like, oh God, I gotta get out of here. And at that moment, this is the creepiest part of the movie. Because Santa...
I love this moment.
Grabs him, holds the knife up to his neck, and he's like, I caught you. Now it's your turn.
Now I hide, and you seek.
And it's just chills, man.
Well, that's the point in the movie where I feel like it is now abundantly clear that this man who is Santa isn't there to necessarily cause harm as much as he thinks he's playing.
Yes, yeah.
And he's just eliminating everything on the way to playing. And there's something about that is so just like, oh my
purely
God.
Evil, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Or purely chaotic, I suppose.
And Thomas gets out. He goes to the caretaker's house. We find that the caretakers are now dead.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas gets the insulin. He starts
little bit of insulin.
Running back to the house. And Santa captures him again. Thomas lands face first in mud.
Oh my God.
Right, because he trips over the cop's body, remember?
That's right, yes.
Thomas picks up a fucking gun and shoots Santa. He shot Santa in the chest.
This is the point when the theme becomes clear that you have to essentially kill your childhood
to grow up.
Yes.
Which also, I feel like I wrote down, how many decades of therapy do you think this kid has?
Oh my God. Like, again, that's the amazing part of this kid's performance, is you see that 1,000-yard stare that kid has at the end when his, well,
before that, I actually want to talk about, as he's holding the gun at Santa, he lifts it and he goes, why? And Santa just takes a step closer. He shoots Santa in the fucking chest, runs inside, gets the insulin to his grandfather, and there's this incredible moment where, I mean, like, that scene is harrowing because, again,
he's struggling.
You think that Grandpa can actually die.
Yes.
The kid leans up, and as he leans up, Santa is just there. In a way, this was one of the few moments that felt like a regular horror movie, but I was actually surprised by it. Like, the reveal of Santa, that you're like, oh, fuck. To then which, I thought this was fascinating. Santa looks at the kid and goes, why?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, they're both childish and don't realize what they've done. As to then which, Santa is Santa is struggling with Thomas. He goes to kill Thomas. Grandpa takes the gun, and again, Grandpa's blind. Knowing that anything can happen in this movie, there's a gunshot and we cut away, and you're like, okay, who did Grandpa shoot?
Who was it? And is this going to be a huge tragedy?
Yeah.
Like, it's already bad.
Yes.
But it's already a horror movie, but is it going to be a tragic horror movie?
Is it going to be a tragedy, too? Mom comes running in at this point, which she's been on her way there, and we won't even get into all of that stuff that's happening.
That's ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah, there's too much there to even... Mom runs in, and that's when Thomas has that 1,000-yard stare.
Yes, and
she holds him.
And you'd think, like, in the ending of a typical movie, it'd be like, Mom, oh, we're family again. We're all
safe.
Right. We're fine, you know? And no, he is shattered.
To the point where there is, at this point, and this is where you're talking about, I think, where the movie doesn't quite trust the audience, because we see, like, all these flashes of things that have happened in the movie.
You hear all of not even flashes, just the words, Santa becomes an ogre. If you look at him, you have to grow up and that stuff. Yeah.
But then, when you think that the mom's going to be like, you're safe, you're fine, that's not really Santa, the kid pulls back, looks at his mom, and says, it's my fault, Mom. I wanted to see Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends, and you're just like, what?
With one of the creepiest shots. It's the dead body of Santa Claus laying on the ground with his outstretched arms towards the chimney.
Covered in burns, covered in cuts, covered in gunshots, covered in mud.
I want to say something about the progression of the damage to Santa is fascinating. Also, I made that reference to the Shining maze. But there's also, even before that, when they first lock Santa out of a door, he smashes through.
Smashes in like the Shining.
Like the Shining, yes. So there's
Here's
Santy.
No. Here's Jean.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'll do. But there's a lot of awesome nods to it. But again, the destruction and the damage that Santa takes through the movie, the only part that frustrated me was there is a moment right after he flocks himself and then he fucks up the car, and then he smashes his head into the windshield. Well, he has this wonderful bit of blood running down his face. And then he goes into the laundry room and he wipes his face off, and he is pristine again. He only has
that cut is still there.
The cut's still there. Yes, absolutely.
But the blood's not pouring.
I really wanted like bits of the blood in the flocked white, because I thought that was the next logical progression of quote unquote battle damage. You know what I mean? But the rest of it was just so good, so detailed.
And that brings us to the end of the movie.
That's it. Yeah.
I think people, if you want to have a great time for your holidays, sit down, socially distanced with somebody that you love in your own household, watch Home Alone, and then just be like, oh, let's watch this movie too. Because I think that was also a trip I should note, is that I did not realize how dark this was because I had just watched Home Alone when I first saw it.
Oh, of course.
So you're sort of like, okay, so we're still in Home Alone.
It's just the French version.
God. Yeah.
Oof.
So I guess at this point we're at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Let me ask you.
Yes.
Would you recommend this movie? I think I know your answer.
100%. Yes. Yeah. No, this is super fun.
It's fantastic.
The only thing that might put people off is the subtitles, but grow up, kill your heroes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is oh man. Yeah, this is one of those movies where, like, I knew the second I watched it. In fact, I think I remember saying to you, we are doing this movie next Christmas.
Hell yeah.
The second I finished it, because I just knew that this was something special. This is one of those movies where you're like, everybody needs to be introduced to this.
Yeah.
Everyone's mind has to be blown off the top of their fucking head with this movie. I loved this movie. I obviously recommended it because I recommended it to you.
Exactly.
And I would say that usually we ask the question of what can we steal.
Sure.
And even though it's not a canon movie, is there anything... Because, I mean, mine's kind of simple, is like, this is one of those movies where it might be easier to just say, like, everything.
Sure.
Like, there's bits and pieces everywhere in this movie that you can steal.
Transitions. I think we've talked about a lot of them. There was a great shot that I didn't even mention. It's when Santa is searching for Thomas at the beginning, and he is in the billiards room, and there's a shot.
Scarlet there with a pipe?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And he took the pipe and killed Miss Scarlet with it.
Yeah.
No, there was a shot from the pocket of the billiard table.
Yes.
When he was frustrated, and he, like, spun the ball away from him, and the ball hit another ball and came towards the camera, and I was like, that's awesome. That shows legitimate frustration in a physical act at that level. Yep. It's just kinetic.
There are numerous shots in this movie. I think this is one of those, and I think you actually already hit something so important, that if you are making a horror movie, follow the rules of this movie where things are logical for the most part. Yeah. Obviously, you have to suspend disbelief that this house exists. Yeah. That you, like, there's little bits in there where you have to be like, okay, I'll go along with that. But the logic, once the world is set up, the internal logic of that world makes complete sense. Yes. And I understand every action that everyone takes.
Exactly.
Even to the points where there's a couple times where the little kid does some stuff where you're like, what the fuck are you doing? But I also understand the brain of a 9-year-old thinking, I need to bury my dog.
Right, yeah.
I mean, also understand the brain of a 9-year-old being like, I have to put a
cross. Yeah.
And I saw this in Rambo, so I'm going to do it here.
There you go, yes. No, exactly. And, you know, he may be a wunderkind, as they say, but he's still...
Did you say that in French?
Wunderkind in French. Yes.
He needs to be a croissant. And...
But no, he also has to have the emotional maturity of a child, and he does. You know, there are things that wouldn't necessarily occur to a child.
Yeah.
No matter how much intelligence one has, there is still life experience.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
People, please watch this movie.
Do it.
Please introduce this to all of your friends. You will be forever the cool person who introduced your friends to
this gem of
a film.
That's right.
I believe for those who do want to find it, Vinegar Syndrome is selling it under the title Deadly Games.
Deadly Games. Okay,
Deadly
gotcha.
Games.
How is there 5 names for this thing?
Because it's also known as Game Over. It's also known as Hide and Freak.
I think my least favorite is Hide and Freak.
I think so too, because I think that feels like the
Asylum title.
The Asylum title too. I was actually gonna say, I feel like that's the version where it was re-edited and then put into drive-in movie theaters.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Just to draw people in.
Yeah. It is Deadly Games 4K. It's Deadly Games if you look it up on Amazon. Yeah.
And also, if you do have it, it's streaming on Shudder.
Oh, is it? That's great.
Yeah.
Shudder, I think, is only $5 a month, and if you are anywhere interested in, it might be $6 a month now, but if you are a person who likes horror movies, it's like the Netflix of horror.
We're not paid by them, but yeah.
Nope. But there are a ton of great horror movies, and it's definitely worth your $6 a month.
Heck yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so...
Well, cool.
That's... Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy
holidays. Yes, indeed. Happy end of the year.
Happy... Well, we'll see it before New Year.
Yeah. But, fun times.
Ugh, man, I'm so stoked.
Woohoo!
I'm so stoked we got to see this.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and I do... Hey, Nick, you're welcome.
Ugh, thank you. Wait, shit. So now I have to come up with something for next year.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I'm going to top these two movies. I think I'm tapped out.
You have a lot to live up to. Just saying. You got to figure something out.
I do. And you have not much to live up to, considering we just have to watch Thanksgiving again for...
You're welcome.
Thanksgiving.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, okay. Sounds good.
Anyways.
Yeah. Next time?
Next time. On the next episode of Creating Canon. Dun, 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 dun. I think my mind has melted from all of this insideness. But, we decided, I have...
What up, dude?
We are going to stay in the 90s.
Uh-oh.
And we were in Africa for African Express.
Yes, indeed we were.
And right now we're just going to hop on over to Egypt, which is also
in Africa.
Yeah. To watch 1993's Tobe Hooper's Night Terror.
Hey, that sounds fun.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because it is a reunion of sorts of Tobe Hooper, Robert Englund, and William Finley, who all worked on Tobe Hooper's follow-up to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was, of course, the classic movie that I'm sure you and everyone else in the world has heard of.
Yeah, sure.
Eaten Alive.
No.
Yeah.
What is that?
Eaten Alive is a movie about a man who keeps a killer crocodile. Actually, you know what's really funny?
What?
In a post Tiger King world.
Okay.
This movie would be the equivalent of the Crocodile King, where it is a man who runs a hotel who also owns a crocodile that he feeds people to.
That I think that should be Netflix's next thing.
Yes, Eaten Alive. I've actually seen Eaten Alive.
Oh God.
At a movie theater, which is interesting. I've seen it in 35mm with the New Beverly. Shout out. Yep. Shout out to the New Bev. Awesome. I cannot wait to go back there once we are out of shelter in place.
Fantastic. Well, then...
All that being said, we're not watching that movie. We're watching Night Terrors.
Oh, perfect.
Sounds
great.
By the way, takes place in Egypt.
Oh.
And you know what's found in Egypt?
What's that? Crocodiles. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Full circle, man.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So join us next week.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. And Nick, what are you? What are you? What are you? Who are you? How do we find you?
See, considering that it is Christmas, you could find me on Amazon gift wish list, and you can see what I want and buy me stuff. Or, barring that, I'm on Twitter at Nicholas C. Pappas. You can check my website, nicholascpappas.com. A website that is forever under construction.
Maybe for Christmas we'll get you the end of the construction, but probably not.
Ooh.
No, we're not going to do that.
That is my New Year's resolution, is to not finish that website.
Oh, nice. One more year. All right, you can follow me at the AJ Hamilton on the things. I'm the AJHamilton.com, and you can follow us at Creating Canon. That's CANNON, and creatingcanon at gmail.com for any questions, concerns, fan art that you want to do.
Please watch this and tell us
Yes.
what your friends think after you've made them watch this movie.
Please do. It's
Yes.
You'll find out who your real friends are.
Yes.
Yes. And
I thought you were gonna say you'll log, but that's what
Yule. And as we always Yule log, good night, and good and happy holidays.
Merry Christmas! Happy holidays! Ho, 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 ho.
Happy holidays in French.
My end is perfect.
Yes, of course
My
it is.
back end.
We should all get certain things just memento tattooed on ourselves.
Grab a spoon and eat it like mashed potatoes.
Dig on into it.
Can I just say really quickly?
How dare you? Yummy.
I think if we shoot for 45 minutes,
Yep.
we might get out at an hour.
Sure. Oh man, look at all this craziness and
Grab a spoon and eat it like mashed potatoes.
dig on into it and created a dam, and he has to crawl all over them. But I think that's a cheat.
Wait a second. Dear Code Santa Claus, deck the halls with Santa's balls. Wait, no, hold on, that was... And the Joker got away. Hey!
Oh, I love the holidays.
You say it's fine. You're not the one editing this shit. I am.
In opposite world...
It's fine.
Let me take
It's
it back.
fine.
Let me take it back.
It's fine.
Hey,
It's fine.
you're not...
I shaved my head once.
How
And
bad was the breakup?
Do you do voiceover?
No, it's very easy, though.
It not me.
It not me.
I was hoping that I would have a good bald head. It fine.
Me thank.
You're welcome. I had my Sal. I had my Sue.
Should we do an entire episode on Jake Johnson?
Dial code Jake Johnson. This is probably.
He's still a Wunderkind. No, that's
not
German.
All I'm gonna say is I'm so hungry I just can't wait for my lunch.